All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. Got a jam-packed show for you today. We're going to talk some USA basketball off the top. I have three different segments that I want to get into surrounding Team USA. How they stack up compared to some of the other great Team USAs in history, like 1992, 2008, 2012. I want to talk about their lineup construction, some of the things that I expect them to look like, both in building groups of five for their starters and for their bench groups, different looks they'll use for different matchups. I want to talk a little bit about the schematics of how this team should work. So we're going to dive into some of the X's and O's in that segment. And then in the third segment, I want to talk about the odds of who's going to win the gold medal. I want to look at some of these other teams like France and Serbia and Canada, and if any of these teams have the ability to actually beat Team USA. Team USA right now is a substantial favorite, so we're going to dive into that in the third segment. And then at the end of the show, I want to talk a little bit about the WNBA Rookie of the Year race. There's been just a crazy stretch of games from Angel Reese, who just set the record, stole the record from Candace Parker, set the record for most double-doubles consecutively by a rookie in the history of the WNBA. She's starting to get some Rookie of the Year buzz, but according to DraftKings, Caitlin Clark is still minus 500 to win the award, is on one hell of a stretch herself, averaging over 11 assists per game in her last 5 games. So I want to talk a little bit about the WNBA Rookie of the Year race, why I think Caitlin Clark is still the clear front runner at this point. And I want to talk a little bit about the different archetypes of basketball players and how they impact teams, and why the role that Caitlin Clark is filling is the toughest role to replicate anywhere else on the roster, and why that is a differentiator for her in that race. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Hoops Tonight YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at @JasonLT so you guys don't miss show announcements. Don't forget about our podcast feed, wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. And then keep dropping mailbag questions in those YouTube comments so we keep hitting them throughout the rest of the summer. And then last but not least, before we get started, I want to talk to you guys about Game Time. It's baseball season right now, and this is the best time of year to get out, get to a baseball park and watch your favorite team play. I grew up watching baseball. That was what we did when I was a kid. We'd come home from school, we'd have dinner or whatever, and then we'd all just sit around the couch and watch the Arizona Diamondbacks play, and got away from it a little bit as I became an adult just because I dove headlong into basketball, as you guys know. But last year when the Diamondbacks made it to the World Series, it completely reinvigorated my love for baseball. I played it in Little League growing up until I got into high school. I've just always had a soft spot in my heart for the game, and there's nothing like getting out to one of these stadiums and watching our favorite baseball teams play. And this is where Game Time comes in. Game Time is an incredible ticket buying experience. You guys will be able to find last minute deals. You'll know exactly what you're getting yourself into. You'll see a good picture of your seat before you show up to the stadium. You're not going to have to worry about going to check out and being surprised by fees. Everything is included in the all-in pricing. It's a simple process. You can check out in as few as 2 taps. And they also have some really nice deals for you guys to check out. They have flash deals with in-app deals that just pop up immediately before a game. They have zone deals where you pick a section within an arena, and then they'll pick the seats for you within the section so that you can get extra savings that way. And it's not even just for baseball games. You can get out to concerts. I'm going to see Dead & Company in Vegas here literally in 3 days. I cannot wait. There's lots of other comedians and other artists touring around the country. There's plenty of things for you guys to go out and see, and I want you to use Game Time. Give it a shot. Let me know what you guys think. Take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code HOOPS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code HOOPS. That's HOOPS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, let's talk some basketball. So first of all, with Team USA, the basketball fan in me is absolutely loving all this training camp content. Just like watching that reel on Instagram of all the guys walking off the bus, and it's like, oh shit, there's Steph. Oh, there's KD. Oh, there's LeBron. Oh yeah, I forgot Kawhi Leonard's on this team too. Oh yeah, Devin Booker. Oh, and it's Joel Embiid. It's just one after the other. It's like, oh, there's Anthony Edwards. He was the best player on the team last summer. It's just, there's so much incredible talent on this team. Part of the thing that makes it interesting is Steph, KD, and LeBron are the old guys, right? They're kind of like what Larry Bird and Magic Johnson were on the 1992 Dream Team. The difference is at that point in time, Magic was still really good, but Larry was starting to fall apart physically. Steph, KD, and LeBron are all still playing at an extremely high level. I think they're all still top 10 players in the league. Steph struggled a little bit at the tail end of last season, but I think there were some mitigating factors there, and I think he's going to have a big bounce back year. I will most likely have all three of them in my top 10 after the end of the summer. So those guys are all still playing well enough, but then you are adding them to all these in their prime stars, guys like Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, Devin Booker, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards. And so it's just going to be so much fun. And as basketball fans, we couldn't hope for a better summer appetizer before we head into next season. So as I mentioned before, there are three major questions that I have about this team. Where does it stack up with other USA teams? Who should start? Other lineup questions. And can anybody beat this team? Let's start with, where does this team stack up? Now, in terms of talent, it's hard for me to put this team ahead of the 92 team, the 08, or the 2012 team because of the top tier talent. So for instance, in 1992, Michael Jordan was far and away the best player in the world, played for Team USA. Every single player on first team All-NBA that year made Team USA. 4 of the 5 players on second team All-NBA made Team USA. So 9 of the top 10 players in the world at that point in time were playing for Team USA. It's hard to match that in terms of top-end talent. In 2008, Kobe and LeBron were the 2 best players in the world. I thought Kobe was the best player at that point. I thought LeBron was the second best player. They both played on that Olympic team. In 2012, LeBron James and Kevin Durant were the 2 best players in the world. LeBron was clearly number 1, KD was number 2, but they were both on that team. In this particular stretch of time in basketball history, right now in the year 2024, there are 3 players that are in the top tier of players in the world, in my opinion. Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo. None of those guys play for Team USA. Joel Embiid has that type of talent, but as we know, he's never really been able to put it together for a full season, including the playoffs. So this Team USA doesn't have that true world-altering top-tier talent that some of the other teams in the past did. But they have so many guys immediately below that tier. And most importantly, I actually do think this team will rival the other Team USA teams in dominance because of the fact that they complement each other so well. This team is interesting because they don't have one of the top 3 players in the world, but they have a very, very well-fitting basketball team. And I think that that's going to be an interesting concept for us to dive into a little bit further, which I'm going to do in the next segments. But yeah, in terms of talent, just sheer top to bottom talent, I think you got to put this one in 4th place behind those other 3 teams, just simply because Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. Luka Doncic and Giannis are right there behind him. I don't think anybody on this roster has a claim to be in that group. Who should start / who is their best 5? So let's think about it from the perspective of filling responsibilities. I always talk about looking at basketball teams as filling five men having to fill responsibilities on both ends of the floor. That is how a team either becomes more than the sum of its parts or less than the sum of its parts, how well they complement each other. Too many redundancies in one area, not enough in another area, that team will underachieve. Really good balance across the board, that team has the potential to overachieve, right? So let's look at it from the perspective of filling responsibilities. Who is the best skill guard on the team? Skill guard, this is the guy that's going to initiate offense. Usually he's going to run the first action, the first trip up the floor. The guy that is going to be usually your most skilled player, your best passer, your best shooter, that sort of thing, right? It's Steph Curry, no question. He starts at the point. There's no debate. Steph is your guy at the 1, right? Who's the best athlete guard on the team? Remember, as I structure teams, I kind of look at it from I want a skill guard, I want an athlete guard, I want a perimeter-based forward, I want an interior forward, and then I want a versatile big man, right? So if Steph is our skill guard, who are we looking at the 2? It's probably Anthony Edwards, right, in terms of the best athlete guard. But he has some specific weaknesses that I think make him a poor fit with the starters. 1, he's not great at navigating screens yet. So I look at him, if you were to run some sort of drop coverage, put him on the opposing guard, I think he would do better with Team USA because he'd devote more resources there. And I do think a lot of it is just conserving energy for Ant. But I don't love that fit. And then in terms of the fit alongside other stars, he's still a little bit inconsistent at making quick and smart reads in 5 out. So I don't think he's a great fit with the starters. Devin Booker, I view as another skill guard. So he's redundant with Steph on the defensive end of the floor. Steph and Devin Booker would be fine on offense, but I don't want two guards that I ideally don't want guarding the other team's best guard. That would be an issue, right? Drew Holiday can do that, but he's not good enough to start over some of these superstar players, right? Tyrese Halliburton is neither good enough nor a complementary fit. He's also redundant with Steph. And so that's it for the guards. So if Anthony Edwards is not a great fit, Tyrese Halliburton's not a great fit, Drew's not good enough, Devin Booker's not a great fit with the starters, then we got to look at the forwards. And if we look at the forwards, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Kawhi Leonard, and Jason Tatum, this is where Jason Tatum becomes a really natural fit for me. Jason Tatum is the most mobile on the perimeter player of all of those forwards. Like those other guys might be like LeBron and Kawhi might be a little bit more physically imposing. KD's got more length, but Tatum has the best combination of like length and actual foot speed to contend on the perimeter. But he also has the strength and size to guard bigger forwards and centers. And so you can ask him to chase and apply back pressure. You could ask him to switch in a switching scheme. And for the record, and this is where I think it's important for us to get to this, the one weakness on this roster is perimeter foot speed. If there's a vulnerability in their defense, it's to quick guards, quickness on the perimeter, right? So I actually view this as more of a switching team. I think that's primarily what they're going to do with their main groups. Not to mention, Eric Spoelstra and Steve Kerr are two coaches that philosophically have a lot of belief in switching as a defensive scheme. I think it's the best fit for this roster. I think it's the natural fit with the coaching staff. That's what I expect them to do. They really only have one guy on the entire roster who is a high-level, point of attack, chase over screens type of guy, and that's Drew Holiday, who I don't expect to play a ton with this group. So I look at this as a switching scheme. So if it's a switching scheme, Jason Tatum, I think, is a really natural fit at the two because he's quick enough to guard some quicker players. You won't ask him to navigate a bunch of screens because he'll be switching, but he can also switch onto bigger players. So to me, Jason Tatum is that kind of like shoe-in fit at the two. He's also the most natural offensive fit alongside the other stars. We talked about Tatum, whether or not he'd be a good fit reading and reacting with four other stars. Tatum's great at that stuff. The rub on Tatum is if he's the one star on the floor, is he aggressive enough and effective enough to be an offensive engine? That's legitimate criticism. But we literally watched him be just this perfect cog in a system in Boston with lesser stars around him, but he was surrounded by a bunch of really high-level players. He is a quick decision maker. He is a ball mover. He doesn't hijack the offense. He didn't even hijack the offense with the Celtics, let alone in a team like this with all of these stars. He had a rough pull-up shooting season, but he's an excellent catch-and-shoot guy. He shot 45% on catch-and-shoot jumpers this season, including regular season in the playoffs, 1.36 points per shot. Even when he shot poorly in the postseason, he still got to 1 point per shot on catch-and-shoot jumpers. That is his most reliable form of jump shooting. That is a natural fit. If Tatum gets wide open catch-and-shoot looks, I feel like they're going to go in. So he is a beautiful plug-and fit at the two because in a switching scheme, he can guard up and down. He has the most perimeter quickness, and he's a natural fit alongside stars on the offensive end of the floor. Tatum's versatility is a huge value, I think, on this particular team. So now that we have our skill guard and we have our athlete guard that's being replaced by an athlete forward in Tatum because of fit, who's the best perimeter forward on the team? Probably KD, right? Brings a ton of skill, brings length. He's super easy to plug and play with other stars. He's probably the best plug and play star ever, right? But as we know, KD is probably going to miss at least, I think he's probably going to miss that scrimmage against Canada on Wednesday, which sucks because I'm going to be there and I would love to have seen KD with those guys. But I expect he'll be back for the Olympics. Apparently this calf strain is something he had before, and I just don't think he would have showed up if he didn't plan on playing. So my guess is he'll be back. But in the short term, I think Kawhi Leonard is the fit in that spot. You plug Kawhi Leonard in at the 3, but in the long run, I think Kevin Durant is your 3. Who is the best big forward on the team? It's LeBron. And like that might have been more clunky as a fit early in his career when he wasn't as good of a jump shooter, but he's become an excellent catch and shoot guy. And especially in the last year with the Lakers with their shift to 5 out, but they started to do this last year where LeBron was operating as a screener a bunch. But this year with the Lakers in their 5 out system, LeBron became a devastating screen and roll guy. He shot 61% on his own shot attempts, field goal percentage, on over 100 reps this year as a roll man for the Lakers in their 5-out offense. We know how he can operate as a passer in that role as well. I think LeBron is going to be a guy that actually slots really well into that 5-out system as basically a screener. And I think with his combination of size and strength on the defensive glass and defensively in general, I just think he's the perfect fit there at that 4, right? And it just is going to add to that physical profile of that front line. He's still one of the best combinations of size and strength in the NBA, even at over 40 years of age. Who is the starting center? I guess LeBron is actually turning 40 next year. I think he's still 39 at this point. Who is the starting center? To be clear, I do think that Embiid is a better basketball player than Anthony Davis. I think he's a much better offensive engine, which brings more value to a basketball team. It's a similar concept to what we're going to be talking about with Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese here in a minute. So I do think that Embiid is a better player than Anthony Davis. But this is not an NBA team. This is an Olympic team. It's not about how you can lift up other role players. It's about how you can complement other stars. We talked earlier, if you guys remember, about how I see this as a switching team. Embiid cannot defend on the perimeter in the same stratosphere as Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is the combination of elite rim protector, elite defensive rebounder, elite pick and roll defender, and elite switching perimeter defender that makes him the ideal fit in a switching scheme next to other big forwards like KD, like LeBron, Jayson Tatum, etc. So I view Anthony Davis as a really, really natural fit within this switching scheme on the defensive end of the floor. On the offensive end of the floor, Embiid's post-up and face-up attack would actually be a rhythm disruptor for the rest of this team. You don't want to have Steph and KD and all of them just standing on the perimeter while Embiid starts unleashing his jab step pump fake game trying to draw fouls, right? Like it's going to be kind of clunky, right? AD would just function basically as a screener and a roller, as a vertical spacing threat. I think he's a more natural fit on the offensive end too. Again, Embiid's a better player, but fitting alongside this team, Anthony Davis is the better fit. I do prefer Embiid for specific matchups, like when they play France. France is going to play Victor Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert. They're going to be a nightmare in the paint. Embiid's three-point shooting will probably be valuable in that matchup. Against Serbia, who they scrimmage next week, and they play in the first Olympic game in late July. You need someone who can guard Jokic, and Embiid is the best equipped player in the world for that. So Embiid, I think, should start certain games and will play more than AD in certain games, but I think AD is the best fit in the starting group to make that 5 play better basketball. With that 5, with Steph, Jason Tatum, KD, LeBron, and AD, you have 4 proven great shooters, a screening fulcrum in AD, who's one of the best vertical spacers in the world, a second screener in LeBron if you need him, and then you have a switching look with 4 big forwards who can all guard up and down positions, and Steph Curry, who you can ask to hedge and recover, or just ask him to press up on the jump shot knowing you have an absurd amount of length behind him. You're going 6'9", 6'10", 6'9", 7 foot with that front line. That's a lot of help defense behind Steph to make his job easier. And then as far as some bench groups, like I love the fit of Devin Booker with Anthony Edwards. That's your skill guard, athlete guard combo, right? You can go small with Drew Holiday out there and Kawhi Leonard at the 4 with Joel Embiid. You can go bigger with Kawhi at the 3 with Bam Adebayo next to Joel Embiid. You have a bunch of different looks. I like in those bench groups too with Embiid. Embiid will actually need to be more aggressive offensively in those groups. So it's just a better fit for him to be able to come in the game and be Joel Embiid. Whereas if he came into the game and was Joel Embiid with the starters, I just think it would be clunky. As far as schematically, like we talked about, I think you will see a lot of switching. I wouldn't hedge and recover with Steph. I would just have him guard and then basically just tell him to press up on jump shots and know that he has backside help behind him and just ask him to rotate. On the offensive end of the floor, I expect them to run 5 out. I haven't seen enough footage from practice to know what they're running yet, but I would just assume they're running 5 out. And with that, it's just lots of ball and player movement, get the defense in rotation, trust each other. KD can attack closeouts. Steph can attack closeouts. Tatum can attack closeouts. LeBron can attack closeouts. AD is just always going to be there ready to finish. All of these other guys can slot in and fill that role. Devin Booker can come onto the floor and provide some of what Steph brings to the table. Ant can do the same. Kawhi can do the same. That, to me, there's going to be a good amount of scheme consistency from group to group, and you're going to be able to put different types of lineups together that complement each other. And that's the beauty of this roster, and that's why I think they're going to be very dominant. Who can beat this team? Final question. Starts from the standpoint of what are their weaknesses, and I don't think this team has any offensive weaknesses at all. They have plenty of ways to get the defense into rotation. They have plenty of ways to finish plays. They have guys that can take over the game. They have guys that can bully inside. They have elite pull-up shooters. They can play drive and kick. I think they're fine on the offensive end of the floor. Defensively, the one issue, because they have a big center, they have a rim protecting center, they have tons of forwards, they have tons of length. The one thing is they just don't have a ton of foot speed on the perimeter in general. And again, it's worth mentioning they have more than enough length to make up for it, but they could be vulnerable to some really quick guards. So with that, let's take a look at the Vegas odds. So these are according to DraftKings. USA is currently favored at minus 390. It's a pretty substantial favor. Nothing insane, but pretty substantial. Canada is the second favorite at plus 900. But I don't like the matchup because their two main offensive threats, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jamal Murray, are pull-up shooters. And the U.S. has a ton of length to bother pull-up shooters. They're not overly quick guys. We know Shai can beat people off the dribble, but he's not lightning quick. There's not a ton of lightning quickness on that team. It's a pull-up shooting team. Length is the best counter for pull-up shooting. They're also undersized on the front line and lack rim protection. That feels like a disaster against a front line of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, or LeBron James and Joel Embiid, and just with the inverted spacing that Steph Curry provides, right? So I don't really view them as a substantial threat. France, plus 1,000 as the third favorite. They have Wemby and Rudy Gobert. Nick Batum at the 3. That's a lot of length. Their backcourt is most likely going to be Frank Ntilikina and Evan Fournier, right? They're going to be a pain in the ass to score against in the paint for sure. But how do you counter a team that has a lot of length under the basket? Perimeter shooting. Team USA just has a ton of it. LeBron, KD, Steph, and Jason Tatum are all really comfortable shooting, not just shooting, but shooting from deep. So that's not going to be, they're all comfortable above the break. So that's not an issue. I even think USA could go centerless against them, because their front line, Gobert's a non-threat offensively, and Wemby's kind of thin. So you could even supplement that with more shooting and just be we're not going to go AD. We're going to go LeBron at center, Tatum at the 4, KD at the 5, or KD at the 3, and we'll go Booker and Steph. And now we just have tons of shooting on the floor. Good luck, Steph, Devin Booker, KD, LeBron, and Jason Tatum. Just good luck. No amount of length at the rim is going to cause that to be a problem, right? And so again, France has some issues that they present, but I think the USA team presents more issues to France. Serbia, they have Nikola Jokic. Serbia right now is plus 1,300. They're the fourth favorite to win the gold medal on DraftKings. They have Jokic, but Team USA has Joel Embiid, who is literally the best human in the world at guarding Nikola Jokic. So that's another thing that USA has a counter for. Not to mention all the issues that the Team USA could present for Serbia on the perimeter, right? Now, again, single elimination is always a variable. Anything could happen when a team goes hot or cold, as we know. But I think USA is pretty resilient to that. And I think they're going to be really hard to beat even in a single elimination setup. I expect them to win convincingly throughout the tournament, and I think they're going to win the gold. I would be really, really surprised if they didn't. This is not a team that I think presents some of the vulnerabilities that other Team USAs that haven't brought all their players have presented. And most importantly, I think they're going to be really fun to watch. I am going to be at the scrimmage against Canada on Wednesday. I will be live tweeting through the whole thing. I'll send some videos out on my Twitter feed as well, so make sure you guys follow me at _JasonLT on Twitter. You know the beautiful thing about being a sports fan? There's only 2 days the whole year without a game. 2. With so much happening and so much action, that makes just about every day game day at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's super easy for first-timers to get started. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, select your team, and place your first bet. It really couldn't be any easier or any simpler. Baseball, golf, UFC, there's something for every fan of every sport to bet on DraftKings. And I know it's early, but football season will be here before you know it. And the Kansas City Chiefs are currently the favorite to win the Super Bowl on DraftKings at plus 550. And if you're new to DraftKings, you got to check this out. New customers bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code HOOPS. That's HOOPS. That's code HOOPS for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. You know, whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. That's the reason the Toyota Camry has been America's best-selling sedan for the past 22 years. And the all-new Camry takes it to a new level. It comes equipped with a standard 225 horsepower engine and available sport-tuned suspension, providing power, speed, and agility. Think of the Camry as your typical swingman. And it's a good-looking car, too. The Camry racing on the 2025 NASCAR circuit was based on the racing-inspired design of the all-new Camry, with available features including two-tone midnight black metallic roof and rear spoiler and 19-inch alloy wheels. The interior is just as fly. The Camry has a modern interior design with available features like a leather-trimmed steering wheel and multi-stage heated and ventilated front seats. We're talking fundamentals and flash. You don't see that combo often on the court or on the road. And because every all-new Camry is a hybrid, it has awesome fuel efficiency with up to an EPA estimated 51 miles per gallon combined. Whatever your vibe, it's a Camry vibe. Learn more at toyota.com/Camry. Let's move on to the WNBA. So we got ourselves a classic Rookie of the Year battle. Both players are just exchanging dominant games. Angel Reese is just like good consistently for 17-ish points and 14-ish rebounds every single night. She's put together the longest streak of double-doubles by a rookie in WNBA history, breaking the record of Candace Parker, right? And Caitlin Clark's coming right back at her. She goes for the first triple-double ever by a WNBA rookie in a really fun game against the New York Liberty. Took over that game late, too. They were down 6 with 3.5 minutes left, and she had a driving and one bank shot on the right side of the floor to bring it to 3. Then she had a transition kick-ahead pass for a wide-open 3 that tied the game. Caitlin was just unbelievable in that game as they got a huge win against the New York Liberty. And so now we have this debate, right? And there's a lot of people saying Angel Reese should win Rookie of the Year. A lot of people saying Caitlin Clark. But Vegas, or more specifically DraftKings, sees it as very much Caitlin Clark's race to lose. She, on DraftKings right now, is minus 500 to win Rookie of the Year, and Angel Reese is plus 300. It's a pretty massive gap. It's not unclosable. But what that means is if the season ended today, there would be no debate. Caitlin Clark would be Rookie of the Year. And I agree. I think Caitlin Clark is clearly the Rookie of the Year at this point. And this is where we have to get into the difference between roles. And again, there's going to be a lot of talk about counting stats, especially because Angel Reese is putting up some incredibly dominant box score numbers, right? Angel Reese is dominating games as an athlete. She's a super disruptive defender, just putting up crazy block steal counts every single game. She's a wrecking ball on the glass on both ends of the floor. Even her rim finishing is trending up, which was one of the biggest rubs on her early on in the year, right? Like I mentioned earlier, you can just count on her to give you, in the mid-teens in points and mid-teens in rebounds every single night, right? And there's a ton of value that comes from that. But what Caitlin Clark is doing is she's functioning as an offensive engine, which is a very different type of role. And the box score numbers show it, for the record. In their last 5 games, the Indiana Fever are averaging 30 made field goals per game. Caitlin Clark is either scoring or assisting 16 of those 30 made field goals every single game. So either her putting the ball in the basket or passing to the person who put the ball in the basket, more than half their offense in the last couple of weeks. But that doesn't even come close to capturing the real impact of Caitlin Clark in this offense. Because her main goal, the main thing she's doing, and the reason why the Indiana offense has turned around and they've started winning, they've won 8 of their last 13 games. The reason this has turned around is she is primarily focusing on getting the defense in rotation. They're using her a lot in off-ball movement as a decoy. They're doing a lot of really fun stuff to help her beat ball pressure, where teams are picking her up full court and forcing her into some turnovers. Now she's doing a lot of give and go stuff right around half court, where she'll make a quick move against the ball pressure and then throw the ball up to Aaliyah Boston at half court, and then she'll quick cut off of it and get a dribble handoff and get downhill, and then she'll spin and go right back into a ball screen the other way. She's putting teams in the blender early on, and it's generating all of these short roll opportunities for Aaliyah Boston and Alyssa Smith, and they're benefiting off of it, rolling to the rim when teams are tagging them. Caitlin's making the kick out passes. in general, between hockey assists and just getting the defense in rotation and them capitalizing on the chaos, the box score has her accounting for more than half of the offense. In reality, it's like 2/3 to almost 75% of the offense from Indiana that is being generated off of attention that Caitlin Clark is drawing. And this is where I want to get back to what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about Joel Embiid and Anthony Davis. If you're building a basketball team, the hardest thing to replicate is who's the generator of your offense. That is why Joel Embiid is a better basketball player than Anthony Davis. AD is a better fit with USA basketball because they just need these specific role player things. AD is the guy that goes out there and puts up, 26 and 17 all the time, right? But as we're looking at Joel Embiid, he's the guy that can be the fulcrum of a high-level offense. Anthony Davis has not demonstrated that. With defense, you can address that as a team with lineup construction and attention to detail within your scheme. With rebounding, you can address that with lineup construction. Just put more size and athleticism on the floor. Even with Angels finishing around the rim, which is of value, look at all of the quality rim attempts that Nalissa Smith and Aaliyah Boston are getting because of Caitlin Clark consistently bringing their defender up to the level of the screen. That can be made up for through what Caitlin Clark brings to the table. So again, all of the stuff that Angel Reese is doing is incredibly valuable and incredibly important, but it is incredibly difficult to replicate what Caitlin Clark is doing for the Indiana Pacers, the Indiana Fever. What she is doing as a rookie in the WNBA is putting an entire offense on her shoulders and consistently generating quality shots. And the results have been amazing. They have the 6th best offensive. This is a crazy stat. So in their first 9 games, they went 1-8. They were the 2nd worst offense in the league, in large part because they were just using Caitlin like a normal player. Right around 13 games ago, they started actually using Caitlin the way they needed to, which is using her as an offensive engine, using her as Steve Nash crossed with Steph Curry. And as a result, their offense has taken off. Since June 1st, 8-5, they've climbed all the way up to the 7 seed, and they have the 6th best offensive rating in the league in that span. So they went from the 2nd worst offense in the league to a top half offense in the league by leaning into Caitlin Clark as their offensive engine. She's putting teams in the blender. Everyone is benefiting from it. And again, that doesn't have anything to do with Angel Reese. It's not that she's not doing enough, so to speak. Any other year, she'd be worthy of Rookie of the Year. But this is an all-time great WNBA prospect in Caitlin Clark, who's playing some special basketball and doing the most important thing that an NBA team or a basketball team can get out of an offensive player, which is just consistently generating quality shots. I think she deserves to win the award. And again, it's not over if Angel Reese, continues to put up 17 and 14 every night and Caitlin Clark tails off hard or gets hurt. Then Angel Reese will jump in and get that. That's why she's at plus 300, which is a reasonable number. But Caitlin Clark is the favorite for a reason. She is the more valuable basketball player. It is easier to build a good basketball team around her skill set and what she brings to the table. It is the most valuable type of player in the league. That's why when I look at the NBA, who are the 2 best players right now? Nikola Jokic and Luka Doncic. Why? Offensive engines. All the things that Jason Tatum and Anthony Davis and the better athletes bring to the table, they can be replaced by role players in a way that what an offensive engine cannot do. And that's why I have Caitlin Clark as the Rookie of the Year at this point. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. We are going to be, unless there's some big news, if there's some big news, I'll obviously be reacting. But otherwise, at this point, plan on Thursday morning when I give you guys an instant reaction to the Team USA scrimmage against Canada. I will see you guys then.